Welcome back to another video. I am Gold Raven. In this one, I'll be showing you how to build a house. To get access to your house, you're going to be going in the main menu, and then right here, you're going to be finding housing. If you haven't done the main quest, you're going to have to do that first. Just remember to follow all the arrows. Once you turn in the final quest, you're going to have access to housing. There's two ways to get to the Babylon Trade District. One is by using the join command, and the second is using the fast travel. I go to the travel menu, I go to the Babylon, and then I go to House of Oddities. I head out the door, and then I head this direction right to the Babylon Trade District. There's two NPCs in this location that's going to be very important. The first is Bridget, and the reason why is in build materials, you're going to be finding an item you're going to want called the build depot. This is going to be taking you right back to this location, and you're going to want to do that. The reason why is because there are two dailies you can do right here, and these two dailies are going to be giving you 25 wood planks and 25 building bricks. You're going to be needing those for buying items in the build house items. So if you're wanting these things, especially stuff like these, which are kind of those sought after items that nobody will get for a long time, fastest way of completing those dailies is by going to the Doomwood Forest, run the challenge book 3, kill all the enemies and grab all their loot. Rinse and repeat until you complete those quests. The other NPC is Nail, and this is because he's going to have access to the basic house items shop where you can get more items for your house. You can also do the build house item stuff here as well. Grab those. You've also got special furniture collections. Currently, as of the filming of this video, the Legion house kit is available. Costs 3,000 dragon crystals. Purchasing the whole thing will give you access to everything, but if you don't have dragon crystals, there are still items in here you can spend just gold on. I think that is a really good idea. Last but not least, the housing deeds, and this is where you're going to be finding house plans. Now, each one of these do cost dragon crystals. The bigger the map, the more it costs. So for these smaller ones here, they don't cost as much, but of course these ones do because they are larger. On the main menu, you're going to be finding the housing tab, and right here is where you're going to be finding your house. You can change the house plan if you have multiple house plans. You can change it to one or the other. Keep in mind when you do change it, it is going to tell you that it's going to kick all players out and remove all your furniture. So make sure not to switch your house plans if you've worked really hard on your house. You don't want all those furnitures wiped out. This is where you're going to put your house name, and right here is where you're going to put the amount of players you can have in your house. Currently, you can have a total of 200 players in your house. Any higher, it will tell you that it cannot exceed 200, but 200, that's a lot of players. Visibility means this is set to private, only you can see it. Public is for anybody. This is friends only, or this is guild only. When you're done with all of your settings, be sure to save it. Up here you have the public houses, and this is where you can see other people's houses in the work. Your house item inventory will be showing what you own. You've also got different things here. Right here shows that it's not in use. This shows you have one available. This also shows you have 5 available and 5 not in use. That's what this option here. You can also search through by different icon types. As of the filming of this video, you cannot have more than one house slot. That will be coming in the future. Now that the preliminaries are out of the way, let's get into the house. First things first, I recommend using a small travel form because it will make it a little bit easier when you're trying to edit things in the map. Another handy thing that you might want to know is having access to the housing stuff from the shop. Right here you get access to the different items that cost gold, and in here you have the items that cost material, and then the items that also cost gold or dragon crystals, depending on if you want to spend dragon crystals. There's 4 buttons you need to get familiar with. The first is the inventory. This will be showing all the house items that you own and the different categories of whatnot, so comes in pretty handy. I already went over that, so I don't really need to go over that. This is the edit button, which means that something is currently in edit mode. Then you have the save button, which saves anything you did, and once it's been saved, you can't edit something unless you're back in edit mode. So make sure that you are in edit mode before you try to edit something, because otherwise you're going to be clicking and clicking and clicking and tapping, trying to figure out why it's not working because you weren't in edit mode. Also, be sure to save. Just, it's better to make sure that things are saved before you exit. However, if you do happen to move something, let's say for instance, this has been moved over here, and then I decide to leave the map, it will give me a warning that things are not saved. So then you can either save or not save when you're leaving the house. Another nice thing about the exit button is it's another fast travel to the trade district. So that's going to come in pretty handy. Unless, of course, you have this thing. So now let's start to actually build. In order to do so, you're going to be placing an item into the map like this. Now, this particular one is broken because you can't utilize it, even target it, once it's been applied. If something like this happens, go into your inventory and then you're going to have view instances. Tap on this and then you're going to be able to remove it so it's no longer going to be in your map. If you have a problem with one of your house items placing properly, then just delete it that way by tapping on it, viewing instance, and then removing it. But we're going to start building legit. So the first is to grab something. This is the first thing I'm going to place, Legion Hanging Chains. And this is a big one. So I'm going to be putting this somewhere. You're going to find different buttons right here. The first deletes the item. So if you don't want the item, simply delete it. You have other options right here. One is to reset it, which puts it back to where it was before. If you've moved it somewhere and you hit the reset, it will return it back to where it first applied. And then you have this button. And what this does is it duplicates the item, but only if the item has more. So this is a second pull right here. If I put this down, check the inventory, because I currently have 5 of these, but 2 out of the 5 are now in use. So if you do duplicate an item, just remember that it is duping from what you have. So you can't dupe items that you only have 1 of. And if you find this is a problem, you're going to be needing more items. Very easy to do. Simply go into where it is that you've gathered your items. Let's just say, for instance, the green wall stuff, and then you can just buy as many of those as you possibly want, because literally these have a really large number of items that you can have. You're going to find this little cog button right here. Tapping on this is going to be switching it up, showcasing something a little bit different, but I'm going to do it on a different one because it's going to be a little bit difficult showing it on that. I'm going to use this skull. So we've got this skull in place right here. I'm going to be moving this skull. So you'd go back to here, move it where you want. Let's say, for instance, there. By tapping this, you're switching it to here. Now what this does is you can move, instead of click and drag, you can move the thing with the arrow buttons. This one going this way, this one going this way, or this one going up or down. So if you want to base it under the ground, right in the ground, whatever you want to do, this is the way to do it. You tap this again, and then you'll be able to rotate. You can rotate it any sideways if you want, or facing up or down. This is how you're going to be doing the rotations, which is a little bit finicky to handle, but it really does make for very precise editing. And then you have this option, and what this does is it can grow and make this a much larger thing. If you want it to grow bigger, you want it to grow wider and really tall, or maybe very, very wide, you have the option to mess around with the model basically as much as you want, and you could make this thing enormous. But there's another way of doing this as well, and I'm going to be showing you that. So let's reset this, and this time, instead of doing the building in here, we're going to go back to this mode, but this time you're tapping this. And what this does is this is the global thing, so it will just make the size of this grow much bigger. Next, I'm going to showcase the collision. So let's say, for instance, we're going to put a chair on top of the table. So you'd be placing this thing in and making sure, of course, if you were last in this mode, make sure to go back to this mode when you go to move stuff, because you're often going to forget about the dragon drop stuff. So you're going to see that this automatically places on top of the table. Most items will do that. They will recognize that underneath it is a surface, so you are able to build things on top of things. So that's a nice little feature that you will definitely find in handy, especially when you have things like, let's say, candles like this. It's a whole lot easier when the candle recognizes something that it can sit on like this. But can it recognize it can sit on a chair? Yes, in fact, it recognizes that too. Let me give an example of the building here, because it's better sometimes just to showcase what it is I'm trying to say rather than not. So in this particular one, we'd be rotating this because I want it to go that direction. I want it on the ground as well. I mean, in the ground a bit, so you can basically run onto. So this is basically how I want it. I'm going to take an additional one. An addition. This is why you got to switch it back, because I try to drag it and it's going to make mistakes. So at this point, I want to swivel it around because it is facing the wrong direction. So I'm going to swivel just like that. I'm going to go back to this because then I can drag it up to, and this is when I'm going to go into my travel form, not because it's easier when it's this wide, but it's just going to make it a little bit easier for me to place the chain where I want to place it, because I'm trying to get it lined up. I think that'll be good. Yeah, that'll be. Oh, right. That's part of the problem that I mentioned earlier. You're going to be trying to edit something. I don't know if I did mention it in this video, but if you are trying to edit something and you are in edit mode, you will jump right over it. So make sure not to be in edit mode when you do that. I'm going to grab another one of these and I'm going to bring it up here. But then I need to rotate it since it's facing the wrong direction again. Go back to drag mode and I'm going to put it up top here. Next, I need to flatten this thing out like this. That's not exactly as nice as I would like it to be. Now that we've got the wall on its side, we need to make it bigger, so we're making sure that we're on the global side. We just want to make it a much larger platform, like an enormous platform. Issues like panels not lining up properly is more of a camera type of trick. You just have to use something like this with the green arrow thing and then just bring it down until it lines up visually. That's pretty much as close as you can get to doing stuff like that for now. All right, my house is ready to go. Now, this is about an hour and a half of work or so, give or take. And we are going to parkour up to the very top. I've got these skulls acting as divisions between the chains to give it a little bit of artistic look. And this is I've decided to go rather Legion-ish with this house, at least so far. So here we have the first layer, which is a little table. Got some stuff right there. If you're wondering where this goes, it doesn't go anywhere, but you'll see this little glowing light. I made an effect using a candle. There's a candle underneath it, which is why the base of this thing is so bulky, is because of that. It kind of makes it look like this door goes somewhere. So you can come up with creative ways of making things look like something they really aren't. So this is a slightly enlarged chain leading up to the raven's nest. And this is a very crappy layout. Things are not, perfect up here. I did rather throw this one together quicker, but I did have to duplicate these to make them a larger platform. Basically, this is a platform where you can fight and whatnot. So we have the big giant couches, and then last but not least, this thing. Way over in the distance, you'll see a little word. That is basically what I've done so far. So hopefully this is a good guide for you guys. If I missed anything, I do apologize. Any questions you have, feel free to ask them in the comments below. Thanks for watching and keep those swords swinging.